Here's a little side story for all of you ZX Spectrum, Sinclair computing fans, geeks out there like me. Very surprise meeting with somebody yesterday. You go out to the marketplace to innocently buy some coffee and you get talking with the owners. This woman's running the shop and her husband's there helping out for the day. He's not always there, it's just 1 or 2 days he'll help her out. He's retired. And he serves me and we end up chatting. He's a very chatty man like myself, making conversation. And I, in the conversation, let slip I'm a ex-electrician, electronics. I'm interested in electronics and computing. And says, since I've retired, I'm doing more of my things I really want to do, like electronics and music, programming, stuff like that. All the things I couldn't do when I was an electrician. I didn't have the time. So I let slip that I'm writing bits of computer games and learning machine code and stuff with friends from a group on Facebook, and we're enjoying the retro scene on the ZX Spectrum and 81. And he lights up like a flipping Christmas tree the moment I mention the Spectrum and 81. He's I know very much about those machines. And he's, in his conversation, he's leading me down to a story. In his conversation, he just doesn't blap this out straight away. He says, oh yes, I know all about those machines. I got some things I could tell you that are very interesting about those machines. Oh really? Yes. And the thing is, prior to this, he starts, we're on the subject of electricals, and then we come round to the Spectrum, and he's whipping out his phone, and he's showing me microcontrollers and things you can pick up off all the sites on the internet, and showing me little postage stamp microprocessors and telling me exactly what they're all in one computers. These things are used in intelligent systems around the house to control plugs from a PC and your lighting and everything. It's to control your entire house, electrics and the like, from a central location. This man I'm 55 and he was in his late 60s, and I opened my eyes because he looked a similar sort of appearance to myself. I'm not exactly fresh, but he looked more my age than, the decade and a half older than myself, whatever it was. A lot older. No remark about his age. He looks fit and well, healthy lifestyle. So, he's blabbing all this complex microcontroller stuff at me. I'm following along with ease, because I've done all this stuff before. And I says, yeah, I've used an Arduino variant, a cheaper variant, and I've created an amount of LED projects with it and other things around the house, learning how to program in an Arduino environment. He goes on, and then he drops the penny about going back to the ZX Spectrum and Sinclairs. And he said back in the day, when he owned an 81 of the Spectrums and all manner of other computers that he was into, he claims he modded a ZX81 motherboard. Okay? This guy is board level stuff. You'll find out in a moment. And he altered the motherboard and added extra chips and components, and you could direct program the machine without using its keyboard. It was an interface he built, so you could have a better keyboard on, and you could also hook it up to another machine, and you could direct load hex into its memory using his interface chip. So you prepare your programs on a better machine and just go instantaneously. No loading at the back, no using the expansion port, direct injection to the memory. Incredible. And then he went on to say about the company he used to work for back then in the day. He says, have you ever heard of a company called DK-Tronics? And I lit up like a little Christmas tree. I said, yeah. I remember DK-Tronics had one of their keyboards and maybe a joystick or something else. He says, well, I used to work for them. Get away. No way. What's the chances of going to Durham for a bag of 100 gram of coffee and bumping into a guy who worked for DK-Tronics, a well-known name in the Sinclair world back then in the 80s? DK-Tronics, wow, yeah, they were very well known. He says, well, do you know what I used to do for them? No idea. So I designed all their RAM packs. I'm like, like that, pull your jaw back up off the floor. You did what? Yeah, I designed the RAM packs for 81s and Sinclairs and anything else after. That's just what we did. And he starts explaining how it's done. Wow, and I'm asking about port specifics and things, and and timing sequences and stuff. And he said, oh, to doddle, he just lays it out like it's child's play. And I'm like, again, lifting your mouth off the floor, fucking hell. I says, well, as I mentioned that I'm part of a community online, he's not into social media, so he doesn't know about it. And I says, oh, there's a huge community out there in the Sinclair Spectrum retro scene, and not just Sinclair's, every other manufacturer as well. Everyone's on the retro. And social media is not for me. I says, give it a miss. It's just a nightmare anyway. And I had to go because I was against the clock. And I says, well, it's been lovely meeting him and talking about all these things, And I don't suppose you get the talk shop with many people these days because you're retired. He's like, obviously the wife she's not electronics expert. And she probably finds it highly boring. And I'd said to him, well, I'm not down in here that often to come down to Durham for things, only now and again. And I says, well, if we ever catch up again, do you mind if I pick your brains over a couple of things? No, it's all right, and not at all. Glad to share the knowledge. That'll be fantastic. I'm smart enough to do a lot of reading online and watch demos and learn from other people. But, I'll be more like picking your brains on electronics and how the board level stuff and how the motherboard works. And so he's the interface expert who built the RAM packs. So he can tell us all about how they work and how to use the expansion socket on the back of the machines and what all the pins do and how to interface. You see? So, as a programmer, if you've got a better understanding of such things as... Sorry, that one's the cat. Oi! Scratching herself. Right. Yeah, shush, man. So, I know, we're running emulators and not many of us have original machines and we don't really need the expansion port, but what things could you do with the expansion port? How would you incorporate it into your programming to take a read from an external port that has a RAM pack on it and access it, drop data on it, bring it back? That side of programming has to be incorporated into the program. Putting a RAM pack on would be ROM level control, but also the user has to have some access as well. So how do you implement that in code to get a RAM pack to work on your machine? Things like that. I'll pick his brains over how it actually works, because I've never understood things like that properly. You get these... Used to see it back in the day in all manner of different packs you could put on the back of your 81s and Spectrums, and you'd get a Cura speech, and it would give the Spectrum digitized speech or a sampler or something. There's microdrive interfaces, there's joystick interfaces, there was one for copying games and ripping data. And I was always intrigued, how do these little packs work and interface with the CPU and just do what they do, because of the interest in electronics, how it functions in the signal paths, and also at the computing level, how do you write the routines at the interface with another ROM that's on the expansion pack, and how it all, to be on the interrupt system. Yeah, I've been waffling on for too long, haven't I, cat puss? You're getting bored shitless. And so are these lot. I mean, I've been waffling for 10 minutes now. Yeah, I think we'll call it a day now. Yeah, just need some fuss and attention. Right, so I'll be back down Durham Marketplace some point, and maybe, touch wood, bumping into that guy again. So get scribbling down on your postcards and put some questions into the comments below on this video if you want to know anything about the Sinclair ZX Spectrum internal workings and coding and shit. Is this guy that I've met a bit of a treasure chest for some knowledge that you might be after? Not that we're going to stalk him or anything, or load him with a wheelbarrow full of fucking postcards of questions I've got to get back to my friends on the internet. But one or two questions popped at him, and have a good conversation with him. I'm not going to record him or anything. I've got a good memory. I'll remember what he said. But yeah, just nice to find somebody in the world who has similar interests, and he's a wealth of information. So I might do some DK-Tronics research on the company back then and the products and things, and see if I can do a personal deep dive into his products, and then go back to him and we'll have a bit of a chat, and I can come back with even more information next time around. Right, there we go. So I met a guy from DK-Tronics. Ooh, that's one up on the geek bucket list. I'll catch you later.